This is the Rock Podcast. My friends know that I'm a rock historian, producer, and best-selling author with thousands of interviews I've collected over the years. Usually I go to my archives, pull out a bunch of audio clips from those interviews or one of the thousands of shows I produced. Then we mix in some new interviews so we can bring you the greatest stories in rock and roll as told by the artists themselves. Now, in this episode, we have a brand new interview with John Waite. You know him from The Babies, Bad English, the song Missing You, #1 song, as a matter of fact, Ringo's All-Star Band, and many other things. This is the first time I've had a chance to speak with John in almost 45 years, since I first met him when I produced the Babies Live at the Tower Theater record in 1977. We dug deep with John in this very candid interview and informative conversation. We covered a lot of areas of his life, beginning with the Babies, then Bad English, the supergroup he had with Neil Schon of Journey, Jonathan Cain, Dean Castronovo, and bassist Ricky Phillips, as well as his time with Ringo, while part of the All-Star Band. We also talked about John's recent acoustic album series, Wooden Heart, his forthcoming documentary titled The Hard Way, his current tour plans, and more. So here is part one of my interview with John Waite. Now, I don't expect you to remember. I hardly remember. But here's the story, okay?
Yeah.
I was a music director at a major station in Philadelphia in 1976. And I got invited to the Barclay Hotel to see a video by Mike Mansfield and this new band that nobody ever heard of. And they played this and everybody went crazy. And I said, you know what? This is one of the best things I've ever heard. I'm going to go back and play it immediately. And we started playing it. And Philly is one of the markets where you started to erupt. But I'm the one that went to Chrysalis and said, we should do a live concert. Let's do the Babies Live at the Tower. I'm the producer of Live at the Tower.
I've got a copy of that.
Yeah, well, you might. My name's on the back.
Just a minute. Let's celebrate this properly. Yeah.
I think I'm listed as research director or something, but I was really co-producer. But
yeah, all right. Yeah.
My name on the back?
Let me have a look.
In the credits?
The Joel Fine. The Urban Sonny Fox. Hang on. Look at me.
Right below Sonny Fox.
Sonny Fox. This is Brian Christian. Oh, yeah, Denny.
Yes, there I am. That's me. I'm the only one still alive. No.
No, that's me. That's me. You and me both.
I thought you'd like that story because I've been
it's
big booster.
It's funny.
Yeah.
No, we appreciate that. I mean, Philadelphia was a massive leg up for us. That was one of the first places we broke. So I appreciate that.
Well,
I'm glad I got a chance to say thanks.
There you go. Thank you very much. I'm sorry I haven't had a chance to tell you that in the last 40 years, but okay.
Well, what goes, you just like, sometimes you get those windows that open up like the Twilight Zone.
Right.
And you can actually step forward and make something right or say something to somebody years in advance. It just sort of comes around like that.
Yeah.
Bang.
So did you get that album recently or have you had it for years?
Oh, no, that's the one they gave me at Chrysalis. I've got like 3 copies.
Oh, okay, good.
And that's the ones they gave me in 1977. I treasured that.
Okay.
It's a good recording.
It is. It's funny. I would have thought by now Chrysalis would have put it out as a regular record like most of these.
Well, it has.
They have.
There's a box set came out. That's pretty not very well done, but there's a box set that came out a couple of years ago or last year, and it's on there. So.
Oh, okay. Well, nobody told me.
Well, you should ring them up and ask for royalties.
No, I don't want any royalties. Anyway, I'm glad to be talking with you. I'm glad we got this together because this is going to be, obviously, I know your whole history, so we're going to have to cover some things here.
Sure.
And I know the real story, so you're not going to.
No, my God. I'll buy the negatives. No.
So I know we're here. We're going to talk a little bit about the Wooden Heart anthology because the volume 3 just came out. The other 2 have been out for a while. When did this idea to do this come to you, or did you just release one and then say, you know what, I'm going to do another? Was it planned, or did it just happen as you went along?
No, well, I went in the studio to record some electric songs. With the pandemic being what it was, I was really stir crazy, and I decided it was time, no matter what,
Right.
to go back in. I just damned the torpedoes, you know.
Yeah.
And I spent 2 weeks trying to record 2 songs I couldn't catch, and one of them was like a mega sonic kind of thing that turned into sort of like Revolution #9 at the end, but jazzy and interesting song. And but I couldn't make it work. I might go back soon and listen to it again, and it'll open up. But I'd spent about 20 grand over 2 weeks on musicians, the studio.
Right.
And I just thought, well, it's not going to work, you know. And then as I was sort of like viewing my options, I thought, well, you know, you don't want to leave after all that effort without. And I thought I'd cut some acoustic songs. I just thought I'd see what happened. And there was the Dylan song, Not Dark Yet.
Right.
And that's always been in the back of my mind for something to do. And I think maybe you get screwed up to sort of a different pitch with being in lockdown. I mean, you'll probably go over Niagara Falls in a barrel, you know, just for something to do, you know.
Right. Yeah.
And I kind of felt like if I was ever going to cut that song, that would be it. And I cut it. And it was very quick, like only a couple of takes. And I stood back and looked at it, and I thought, well, that's about as good as you can get.
Right.
And I decided I would add some more songs to it and release Wooden Heart Volume 3 as part of a 3 CD set, 1, 2, 3. So now all the Wooden Heart songs and the new songs are one release. And it was easy. I mean, I cut the whole all the acoustic songs. I cut 6 new songs, 6 or recut or whatever it was.
Right.
In a day, 2 days, possibly 2.5.
Was this in LA?
Yeah, I got a studio that I more or less live at called the Dog House.
Okay.
I mean, it's over in Woodland Hills, but it's like a very, very quiet. There's the main house, and then there's a studio across this sort of Zen garden.
Right.
And if they want to find you, anybody, it's going to be tough. When you go there, you can really, and they have a really great Indian restaurant about 4 blocks away. And this guy, Roger Carter, my drummer, he has a dog. So I go and play with his dog and write songs and record them. You know, it's basically, it's the reverse of big time. It's a very lovely studio and the engineers are great. But it's not like going into Hollywood. I can't really deal with that. You know, I like the thing about going into some, like a really, it's just like I just go in and create,
right.
And there's no fanfare. I can focus completely. But yeah, the Doghouse, and I just, you know, it's like a 3 CD release. You know, I've never seen anybody release a triple acoustic CD. So, you know.
Yeah, who do you think you are, Emerson, Lake and Palmer?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm gonna smack myself around. You know, it was just an inspired thing. Right. It was just, I think it was powered by the Dylan bootleg series. You know, I think I saw myself doing that as I was thinking, because that had been a pivotal record for me, the first one.
Right.
And I think probably I was inspired by that. You know, why not put 3 albums out?
Right. Yeah. So as far as the covers go, were these songs like Catch the Wind, were these just favorites of yours over the years? Or how did you decide?
I had it recorded. That was one that I had in my back pocket. I recorded that in Wales about 6 years ago at Full Studios, which is Motorhead. What's Hawkwind? Hawkwind's bass player has a studio there.
Right.
He's a bass player and he has a motorcycle. Typical Hawkwind stuff, you know. Middle of nowhere in Wales, you know, middle of nowhere.
Space Ritual, yeah, I got it.
Yeah, exactly, man. Silver Machine, baby. And
the best.
Yeah, I know, it's just great. And Stacia. Yeah. And he has this thing, it's like a big main house, like a cottage, terrace cottage, quite spacious, where the bands stay. And then there's a cowshed. It's a really good studio. And me and a friend of mine, Woody, went down there on a trip back to England and just recorded for the night. And I did Wallflower by Dylan and Catch the Wind. And Catch the Wind always stuck with me. So I just put it on Wooden Heart. It was just meant to be there, It's they were, and the outside song, the other one that I did was Not Dark Yet, the Dylan song.
Right. Did you, by the way, do you know Donovan?
No, I've never met him.
Oh, okay.
My girlfriend loves him. I mean, it's like every time she's left to just work the stereo, you hear a lot of Donovan, and but Reedy River and all that stuff,
right?
The box set, that Flower,
Flower to a Garden,
yeah. I remember seeing that in a record shop window with a beautiful cover. It was one of the first box albums I ever saw. I couldn't afford it. I couldn't afford it, but Reedy River really was lovely, and Donovan's a one-off, It's just a one-off.
Yeah. Okay. So you're touring solo then?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I've been doing that I've been doing it nonstop. I haven't really been in a band since Bad English, really. So I'm starting. We're actually playing this Saturday night at Indiana State Fair.
Oh, okay. And who's in your band?
Well, Tim Hogan, he's been my bass player for like 20 years. And we've got Roger Carter, who's a fairly on the scene LA drummer, and an unknown that it's just really, we kind of discovered him, Mark Ricciardi. He's a guitar player, but we've had Kyle Cook in the band from Matchbox 20,
right?
And he's going to get up and play at the fair. He's on the same bill, so we're probably going to play the set. But it's not really so much a revolving door. It's just that we add people, we double up the guitars when we're going out to some really big festival and hit it as hard and as loud as we can. But the other stuff is just three-piece, really, and me. It's like an evening with. It's more like a Wooden Heart evening,
Right. Well, do you do some acoustic numbers by yourself in the set?
Yeah, I really do. We try and do we do Catch the Wind, and we do also Go from the North Country. We do Isn't It Time by the Babies, which is extraordinary unplugged.
Right.
That's on Wooden Heart. Missing You. Back on My Feet Again. It's more or less the same set, but with about a third more acoustic songs. And you'd be surprised the reaction it gets when you actually attempt Isn't It Time, or Every Time I Think of You on the acoustic. I mean, it's an impossible thing to do, but it becomes its own thing, And the audience love it because you're giving it everything you got. And it's like the original's got backup singers, 3 African-American girls, a brass section, a string section, and the Babies playing rock and roll. And then suddenly there's just me. So I like the irony, the kind of Here We Are Now and it's unplugged. I like that. It seems arty,
So do you have plans now for a next record, or will there be a volume 4 of this?
Yeah, no, I've been completing songs. I got this cassette player, this from Radio Shack, that I bought.
That I bought. I'm with you. I'm still annoyed they took the cassette player out of my car.
No, it's terrible. I used to have one of those flat ones,
Right.
And I bought one of those, and I was in the Babies, and I was on tour with that. I had Blonde on Blonde.
Right.
And Desire. And then I had Rough Mix, Pete Townsend and Ronnie Lane.
Right.
And probably some Paul McCartney, I don't know, but that's all I listened to on this little cassette player. And it was quite good, you go into a room and plug it in. But anyway, I have this tiny version of it with a cassette in that's got 60 songs on it. That I just, wake up in the middle of the night and listen to them or record into it. And I got all these songs, but I got a couple that are wicked, I think they're really good songs. And I just keep avoiding it,
Right.
But I think it's going to be like volume 4 of Wooden Heart, but without being part of the Wooden Heart trilogy.
I got you.
It's going to be musically like that, but it won't be part of the Wooden Heart thing. And I think it might involve more instrumentation.
Yeah.
But maybe different colors, I'll try and take it further out. I have no idea, I say that to you now.
Yeah.
I say that to you now, but you go in the studio, you plug in, the vibe's completely what it is, and you follow it.
Right. So just for those that don't know, the original Babies were together for what, through till 1980? I mean, there were one or two changes, I know, but the
81.
original 81.
Yeah. Well, the original Babies split something like 78,
Right,
79. I mean, Mike Colby was fired.
right.
And then we had Jonathan Cain and Ricky Phillips in, and we toured the Head First record. They
Right.
weren't on that. And then we made Union Jacks. And then we toured again for another year. And then the shit hit the fan, really. It was like we weren't going anywhere. So we made one more record and broke up almost immediately after that, you know?
And what did you do immediately after that? Because you didn't form Bad English right away, did you?
No, I went back to England. I got married. I lived in the countryside in a terrace cottage in a tiny village, and I didn't answer the phone. And about 5-6 months later, some lawyers got me. Oh, I came back. That's it. It's getting such a big story.
That's okay. We want the real story, so take your time.
Yeah, no, okay. Well, I came back to. I did a solo album for Chrysalis in New York City.
Right, I remember that.
And with Ivan Kroll from Iggy Pop and Patti Smith, and Bruce Brody from Lone Justice. It was a good band. And after 2 years of living in New York, put the record out, and Chrysalis kind of dropped the ball. And I just got on a plane and went home. But I love New York, and it changed the direction of my life. And me and Ivan kept writing. He came over to England to visit me and my wife at the time, and stayed over, and we wrote more songs. And a couple of lawyers got me off Chrysalis. It was a very hard thing to do, but I got off at great expense. And I went back to America to EMI, and they opened the checkbook and their arms. They really got it, you know. They really got it, and they wanted me on the label, and they gave me a really big deal. And it was like being born again. I mean, and then that album contained a lot of Ivan songs that I'd written in New York, and me and Gary Myrick wrote a few, and I wrote "Missing You" at that point, and everything changed. I mean, it was just like black and white. I mean, instead of being beaten down at Chrysalis, and you know, just yearly bad news about record sales, I suddenly sold a couple of million records, you know, and was nominated for a Grammy, and also it was like overnight I was back.
Obviously I know you heard yourself with the Babies on the radio, but do you remember the first time you heard "Missing You" on the radio?
Yeah, I think I was doing Paper Dolls. I did a TV show. I guested on it with Nicolette Sheridan, and there was a couple of really big stars on it. But he had every week would be somebody new that was different. But they wrote me into the script, and I was like a character for like a month. Oh, John Waite, you know.
Right.
And but I was in the studio and the phone rang, and I was waiting to go in front of the cameras. It was my manager saying, "You're number one." And I was just about to go and have my bit, you know, my film bit done. And it was just a great moment. You know, I just stood there and thought, wow, you know, put the phone down and then went and read the script. But I think you always remember where you are when that happens, you know.
Okay. What can you tell us about the construction of that song and the recording of it? Tell us something about it.
There's a guy that I'd worked with in the past, Chaz Sanford, and we'd been working on a song, trying to get another song up and running for the album. I didn't think we had it, and the record company thought we did. And David Thorner was mixing and doing some overdubs with Gary Myrick in the studio. And I couldn't not do it. I went to work, and me and Chaz were trying to write this song, and it was a pretty good song, but it wasn't great. And I think I had the blues or whatever. But I went over to his house one night, and he was trying to find the song on this reel-to-reel, this 1-inch tape, a nice machine. And he didn't put any code on the machine, on the tape. So he was stopping the tape periodically, you know, every 100 feet, looking for this song. And we couldn't find the song, but he hit play, and this 8-note field piece came up. Gung, 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 gung. And that's really, truly, that's one of my bass favorite things in the Babies too. You know, I could recognize the bass playing as being, that's good. So I said, why don't we just give that a shot? And he said it wasn't even finished. It was like just some chords, you know. But I was interested, you know. So he put that on the headphones, and I went in the spare room with the mic, and he played me through, and I sang, and I found a kind of mood, and then he hit record again at the top, and I got Missing You. I got the whole first verse and chorus in one piece, which could be the blues, you know. It could be being so far from home, and it was off the top of my head. One of my favorite singers, Steve Marriott, had a song called "I'm Only Dreaming."
Sure, with the small faces.
Yeah, and at the end of the song, when I was in love with this girl that I didn't get but when I was about 14, I used to listen to that endlessly, feeling suicidal, you know, as you do. And he says at the end, I can lie to myself. And I don't know whether I stole it off him or if it came out. I didn't plan to do it. I was doing the vocal in the studio, and I remember singing it.
Right.
And I didn't think it was a big deal. You know, it was just an aside. I always scat at the end of a song. It's like a jazz thing or something, blues, you know. But I just threw that in. And everybody went nuts, like, oh, I get it, you know. And I didn't, I can lie to myself. But the whole song was about denial. I'd been away so long, and I was trying to get back home, and I couldn't finish the record. So it's sung about distance. I was thinking about Glenn Campbell's Which Tall Line Man, the images of that, which is telegraph poles to me, and Catch a Train by Free. A train coming into a station, and stations being lonesome, you know, everything was just empty rooms and distance. And I was just sort of painting it in my head, but that's what came out, you know.
Okay. So how did Bad English come together then?
Well, that's the story. I got off EMI. They'd changed from EMI America to EMI Manhattan when middle of one of my records. I'd gone to Germany, and I was like #1 on the radio and records. It was like John Waite, yeah. And I came back about 6 weeks later, and it was like 78. It'd gone like this, you know. So they spent a lot of money. They paid for videos and promotion, but they couldn't save it. It was caught in the changeover, you know. It's got its own way going. I wasn't bitter. It was just, it happens all the time.
Right.
And they gave me a release. So Trudy Green, my manager, took me into Epic, where she had friends, and said, you should sign John Waite. He's great, you know. And the A&R guy said, really, you know. And he didn't think I was a songwriter. And if you look back at the Babies and all that stuff, and you look back at Missing You, I thought that was a little bit off the mark. I'd done a couple of covers in the past, because I love to sing something I haven't written, but I generally write everything I sing, really. But he was going to find the songs, he said, which made me kind of feel like you know, I couldn't even relate. I was just like, no. And I didn't want to piss Trudy off or him. We left the office, and I said, I can't work with that. And I want to be on Epic. I get it. And I know we'll have a hit, but I can't do that. And then we walked down Madison Avenue, and I said, look, if I started a band, I could go back in there with 3 or 4 other guys, and I'd be bulletproof. You know, it would be very hard for anybody to talk down to 4 guys. Maybe I outsmarted myself, you know, but it could have been inspired by Tin Machine, David Bowie. Yeah. I look back on it, and I wondered, I mean, I've always got a plan. Like I can always hatch something. I mean, if faced with a problem, I can come back the next day with the solution. I mean, I think on my feet. So I could have been a completely natural result of that conversation with the guy. But I mean, yeah, it could have been. But you contain ideas as you walk. You know, you just have them in the back of your mind. But I did, and it took about 2 months to wind up back in California. I went to Britain looking for a guitar player. I went all over New York City, LA, couldn't find anybody, and I wound up talking to Jonathan Cain, and I said to Trudy, it's keyboards, you know, it's not really what I'm looking for here. But we hit it off and we started writing and we got something. Then Neil came by, put guitar on. Neil sort of like became, instead of making 2 cups of coffee, you'd make 3. Right. You know, it was Neil. And then Ricky came down and played bass on it. And then after about a month of writing and just hanging, Dean Castronova showed up with Neil. He'd played with him the night before in a club. And Dean played fusion music for about 20 minutes and didn't get the job. You know, he was just nervous and crazy, and it was great though. But he came back about a week later. Neil talked him down and said, just play, you know? And he came back in and was just outstanding, you know, just broke everybody's heart. You know, it was great. And that was the band. That was Bad English.
You're listening to our conversation with John Waite, recorded exclusively for The Rock Podcast from his home in Santa Monica, California. Incidentally, John's birthday is July 4th, and he became an American citizen in 2018. He has a lot to say about that and more. So here is the second part of John Waite. So you went back to Epic and said, now I got a band, or what happened?
Yeah, that was exactly right. We went back, Trudy went back and said, listen, John's got half a journey, half of the babies, and we're going to manage it. Do you want in? They couldn't say no,
right?
Really, when you think about it. And I got my wish, really. I mean, we did actually do one of his songs, this A&R guy, When I See You Smile. Mm. We were, you know, I just felt bad for him because I'd kind of like sort of sideswiped him, really. But and his job is to do that. So, I mean, at the end of the album, I said, listen, man, let's cut the song, play it to the guy. He'll go, it doesn't work. Thanks for trying. I appreciate it. God bless you. And we cut the song, and we were so good that we could have played, you know, My Old Man's a Dustman, and it would have been a hit, you know, and we hit the Diane Warren vibe. Aerosmith were doing it, you know, and they were on Frontline on HK. And it just seemed like a very natural. We got halfway through and everybody looked at each other like, oh God, you know, it's a hit. And it was like it was a really cute, sweet moment. You know, it was like, you know, we're going to be number one. And then we were number one. And then we had like 3 or 4 top 20 singles after that. I mean, it was like it was unstoppable, really.
And why did it break up so quick?
Well, I don't think Jonathan Cain and I ever really got on, but I think he's a character, you know, and we didn't write on the road, and we spent a year on the road, but he was all business and you know, wasn't, I mean, I just still to this day don't understand that kind of character, but we got into the second record and it was a mess. Yeah, it was a mess.
Who was producing that?
Ron Nevison.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it was a mess, believe me. And it almost came to blows with me and Ron. I mean, he was just so difficult. And I left. You know, at some point, there was one day I was working on 3 songs with different writers to bring in something that we could kick into like Diane Warren strata.
Right.
And I came in the studio and we're cutting this idea, and it was bullshit. You know, there was like personal nastiness, and that's when me and Ron almost like, you know, had it. But I just walked out.
Right.
I finished the album with Tony Phillips, a British engineer. I produced the vocals, but I gave him the credit. That was the right thing to do. And went right back to New York. I tried to honor Trudy and the people at Epic, but it was so unpleasant at that point. I just wasn't, you know, you can go the extra mile and you can bite your tongue and you can, but there's a line you don't cross, you know? And I was the wrong side of that line.
So what did you decide to do after that? Now you're living in the States at that time, right?
Yeah, no, I'm in New York. I bought a house in Pound Ridge when after Missing You. Phil Ramone's house in Pound Ridge. It was a lovely big country house on an acre, 3/4 of an acre, deep at the end of a lane. It was a real retreat, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I was there, and I went back to that, and I wintered. You know, I like got a couple of cases of wine, put them in the cellar, ordered a couple of cords of wood, and watched a lot of TV. Went for long country walks, and I was engaged at the time, so there was female company, and it was kind of sweet, you know. But I didn't want to know about the music business. I'd had enough. It was just like that kind of stuff. It's just soulless, you know. And I wasn't interested. And then I got offered a deal with Imago.
Right.
It was a new boutique label, and I made Temple Bar. But Temple Bar was the beginning. It's like something had changed in me. And if I was going to make another record, it was going to be no holds barred, kind of really solo. Downtown is on there.
Right.
Which was a particularly dark song, very, very New York, truthful, spiritual yearning, drugs, a lot. And it was a great record. That the record company folded about 2 months into it. It was very difficult.
Right.
But I eventually bought it back. I bought it back and released it again, remastered it, put bonus tracks on. But that's what happened at that point.
And then how did you get on the Ringo tour?
They rang up. I don't know, you know, my manager rang up one day and said, "Are you still playing bass?" And I went like, "Yeah, of course I am. Speak with it, you know." And he says, "You want to play with Ringo?" And I went like, "Yeah." And you know, I'd been offered a Broadway play. I was going to act, and I was really toying with that. It's because I was impressed with Bowie doing Elephant Man, and I've always toyed with acting, and I thought I was going to do that. That was to be my summer, winter. That was it. And then this phone call about Ringo, and I thought, you know, I mean, who doesn't want to play with the Beatles?
Right.
You know, I idolized Ringo when I was about 10. I wanted to be a drummer. He's a superb drummer, you know. I mean, it's just Ringo. So, and then the phone rang. One day I was in the bathtub, and it was Ringo. You know, "Hello, John. I'm just calling up from England, man." You know, and I jumped out of the bathtub, and I got the phone in one hand. I go, "Ringo, how you doing?" You know, and you're in the band, you know. So you know, it's. I'm glad I did it. It was a little rough around the edges sometimes. Everybody had their own songs. Everybody, you know, Sheila E. That's that you could have used Bootsy Collins better for that. You know, that's like that's a challenge. But the rest of it was simple. But it's a lot of songs to learn. 2 hours on stage without a break.
Who are some of the other people on that tour?
Well, there was Paul Carrack.
Okay. Squeeze.
How Long, Living Years, you know. Colin Hay, you know, Down Under, all that. And Sheila E., you know. Oh, Sheila. You know, the songs really, as the artistic, you know, as the musical director said at some point, before we did our first gig, they filmed them, and he said, "We thought we could have actually bitten off more than we could chew." Because the styles were so, I mean, Colin's songs are like almost reggae with a big plot, you know, and Paul's songs are just incredibly beautiful. And he is such a incredible keyboard player. You know, he played New York City Girl for me at Radio City. He played the piano, just me and him on stage with Mark, the musical director, playing sax. But to hear somebody play that well is, it puts you in perspective, you know. And Sheila E., you know, just very good musicians.
What did you think of the Beatles when you were growing up?
Well, they were like God. You know, I mean, I've never been that religious. I'm spiritual, but I think music has been, or art has been my religion. Painting, music, theater, literature, anything. Creation, you know, it's mirroring what's already there and trying to describe it. But the Beatles, the word coalesced, you know, when you've got disparate things and all these different things groove you love them, you don't know why. I was only like 9, but everything coalesced with the Beatles. It was like fashion, extremely gifted musicians that were still finding their way, the image of 4 working class lads from Liverpool that were a match for anybody intellectually. They didn't put any airs. I mean, it was just like Sting said that about the Beatles, that they were his gods, you know. And it's not sacrilegious. It means that you learn through their music, you learn life. And they guided me right up to psychedelia, and my experiences with that made more beautiful because of the music they made. I watched McCartney 3-2-1 last night.
How did you like it?
Very much. I think Paul, it's the first time I've seen Paul completely at ease. It wasn't having to parry, you know, and bob and weave. He just sat there, played the piano, seemed very honest, and gave credit, you know, to a lot of the people around, like George Martin and Ringo, for stuff. I thought it was great. I mean, you know, you're talking about like somebody who's musical beyond all kind of understanding.
Right.
You've got Paul McCartney. And I think intellectually, John Lennon being such a tormented soul, really. They show it in different ways, but the backstory on both those guys is profound. And if you go with Lennon, like There's a Place, from that idea of being in the back of your head where nobody can get to you, through to Strawberry Fields, the White Album, Happiness is a Warm Gun, Julia, and then into Working Class Hero. I mean, these two guys are poolers, we call them in England. Lancaster, my hometown, is only 70 miles away. But to have 2 of the most ridiculously gifted human beings in modern history in the same town, the same age, and start a band together, you would start to question if there isn't a higher plan or whatever. It's just like, how do you manage to get 2 people? It isn't Rodgers and Hammerstein. It isn't like, you know,
right.
You know, it changed the world. And then they had Ringo Starr, who is the most musical, insanely, I mean, you couldn't imagine anybody playing drums in the Beatles, even on their first album. He was that good. And then you wind up with Rain, and he's like, you know, and then you have George, who's this spiritual guy, who's like this craftsman. He wrote Taxman. You know, I mean, there's a point where it's surreal. You know, it's almost like the Church of the Beatles. You know, and I was surprised last night watching. I've saved the last episode for today sometime, but I was really renewed in my appreciation. You know?
Okay, so let me ask you, what's on the immediate future? You're going to write a book? You're going to tell your life story? What are you going to do?
Well, there's a documentary that got filmed this year, and it's finished.
What's it called?
The Hard Way.
Nobody interviewed me.
Well, to be, you know, 1 minute you're trying to get from A to B and live and breathe and be a human being in a pandemic lockdown, and then somebody puts a camera underneath your nose and says, "All right, give us the truth."
Right.
And you're so angry at the world, you're so coiled up like a snake. You know, it's like you're not the person you should be. But I told a lot of things that were true that might have put me in a bad light, or like I tried to explain my life. I was honest, and maybe too honest. And a lot of people said some incredibly kind things about me. That I saw Neil Giraldo's. I saw a snippet of that, and I was very moved by that. I couldn't believe he said it. but they invite people into my. I mean, to just say what they were going to say. The people from EMI, the people from Chrysalis wouldn't come and talk about it, which obviously they'd fucked up so badly that they didn't want to be in the room. But me and my girlfriend here, they had the whole crew came into this where I live,
right,
into the studio, into the local bookshop that I live at, and just film my life. And that's coming.
When will it be out?
I don't know. Next year, it'll be at the film festivals, and then it might be on Netflix or HBO or Hulu or whatever. I don't know.
Who directed it? Who's the director?
Well, who's the director? The same guy, AJ, the same guy that directed the David Crosby. You know, I just know them all by their first names.
Right, that's okay.
Noam Waite from Gold Circle Films.
Okay.
Bankrolled it. He had like my Big Fat Greek Wedding and all that. So he's made some major films, you know, but he was interested in the story and bankroll the whole thing. It's got a major budget. So, but I'm just like I'm saying, it's the weirdest thing it's okay doing an interview and being blunt.
Right.
And getting to the truth. But when you're being filmed and you're really trying to be honest for just out of respect for the medium and for your own life and the people that you loved or that you had differences, you know, you owe it to the camera.
Right.
You owe it to your legacy to tell the truth to a point. I mean, I think if we all told the complete truth about our lives, we'd probably have to go and live on a desert island, or you couldn't live with yourself.
Right.
I mean, memory is one thing, but man, it's been a long road, you know.
Any plans to do a autobiography?
Well, I started to, you know, to run in alongside of the book. I started to write about it. And I write about Lancaster. I was born at 12 o'clock on the 4th of July.
Right.
And the local whistle went off at the local factory at the same time that I probably screamed. And but you look at Lancaster, and it's an ancient city with a castle, a river, all these beautiful, strange buildings that were built by mega industrialists for the working man. It's really sort of like Dickensian Northwest. You can't describe it. I mean, you listen to Penny Lane, and it's a pretty good song about a roundabout where buses are on a fish and chip shop. Right. But when you have it's the county town of Lancashire, and all my relations and the impact, you would never understand it. You'd never get it. Do you know that, is it The Entertainer, the movie, Laurence Olivier?
Yeah.
That was filmed 4 miles from where I was born. And that's 50s Northwest. And that's where I came up. And we used to go to Morecambe. It was filmed in Morecambe. But working class and very great people, very truthful, very hardy, very loyal, very musical, and gifted. A lot of them are really extraordinary people. But how do you describe that? You know, I mean, I come up with the idea that maybe I would just ramble in the studio into the mic and then edit it. Have somebody come in, ask me 5 key questions.
Right.
And I would just say, this is what happened. But being a fan of literature and reading a lot, when you see how it's done properly, my gift is songwriting or painting. It doesn't necessarily mean I can write a book, and I will not use a ghostwriter. If it's going to be me, it's me all the way. And the only way I can see me doing it is to verbalize it and then edit it.
I got a couple more questions and then we'll let you go. I hope I'm not exceeding my
time.
No,
I hope I'm not rambling on too much, but it's,
no, this is great.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm, you know, this is a great conversation. So you got the Wood and Heart album. Is it available? Is it out on vinyl?
No.
Are you looking to put it out on vinyl?
I hadn't thought of that. I mean, some of the tracks come from the best sources I have. If you put it on vinyl, if it doesn't come off tape, I think an audio file would have a nervous breakdown.
No, there's some really good engineers that can take care of that.
Yeah, you know, because Temple Bar, I wanted to release Temple Bar, and I've had an offer to release it on vinyl. I would love to. That's kind of like the highest note, that and the new one.
Right.
But I hadn't thought of that. I mean, if there was somebody that could look at it,
right.
And I mean, I work with the best, and I'm working with Tom Weir. He masters my stuff.
Right.
And he does everybody that's like in Rod, everybody. I mean, and his gear is the best. I mean, it's unspeakably good. But I don't know if it could be taken any further, but I don't know. know. Okay. But that's an idea. Yeah.
And something else I wanted to ask you, because actually this interview between us came about because you're pretty active on social media. Is that you, or do you have guys that do that?
No. No, it's me. Everything that's posted is from me. I just got a guy in Holland, Waite, that if I can't get on sometimes to Facebook,
right,
he blocks me sometimes. I have no idea what's going. Probably because I'm in a different country and it originates out of Holland.
Right,
could be that. But I just send him the photographs or the what I want to say to people, and he just puts it on. Sometimes it allows me to do it myself. But I have easy access to LinkedIn.
Yeah, that's where I saw you on LinkedIn.
Yeah, and Twitter. So I try to. I'm pretty opinionated. So if I say something political, I'm no stranger to the odd rebuke. People going nuclear. You know, fuck you, man.
Right.
You know, we don't need you. Fuck you. And that's because I said something about Afghanistan or Palestine,
right,
or free speech, or being vaccinated. But you'd be amazed at how many people suddenly go like, fuck you, man. You can't fucking sing. I'm out of here. And I just, email back like, fuck off. You're not supposed to do that. But I don't want anybody on my site that actually thinks like that. So it's not like they're helping me weed out the idiots,
I don't know how many people know, but a couple of years ago, you became a U.S. citizen, right?
I did. It was, I think it was time, way past time. I think this has been my home on and off, for a large part of my life. And I love America. I believe in it. And I think it's, as Dylan said about music, it's always in a state of becoming. He wants to be in a state of becoming. I think America it's like the test tube of the world. This is always going to be in a state of becoming.
Right.
And it's never going to be peaceful. It's never been a peaceful country. The idea would be to have a vote, so that when something comes up, you have a voice.
Right.
You don't just be disgruntled on the internet and say, well, you get in there and you make a difference.
Right.
And I think you walk the walk.
Right.
And if you don't vote, you're not walking the walk.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I want to thank you for your generous time. I'm glad we finally hooked up.
It's great, man. I appreciate the conversation. It's always nice to get into it, But you're a good interview. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And I'll look forward to seeing you somewhere. So that was my conversation with John Waite, as we bring you the best stories from the world of rock in the artist's own voices. You've been listening to The Rock Podcast with me, Denny Somach. You can send a note through the website, therockpodcast.com, or just email us at hello@therockpodcast.com. So that's it for this episode. Tell your friends, keep in touch, and goodbye for now.